500 feet in the air. The runway already behind you. You're climbing, but something ain't right. The engine, it's struggling to breathe. You've got seconds to decide, and the only thing ahead is a rough, uneven field. Something tiny, no bigger than a golf ball, has already decided how this flight is going to end. So stay with me, cause once you've seen this, you'll never look at your pre-flights the same way again. It's December 1st, 2024. Brenham, Texas, a quiet town halfway between Houston and Austin. Brenham Municipal Airport. FAA identifier 11 Romeo. One main runway, 1634, 6,000 feet long and 100 feet wide. To the north, open grass fields. To the south, more grass fields and a highway. At small general aviation airports, what's around you can make or break a forced landing. Sure, wide open fields can look inviting from the air, but they can hide nasty surprises. Deep ditches, hard rock, and soft, unforgiving ground that can flip an airplane over in seconds. Today's plane is an American Aviation AA-1B Bravo, the trainer version of the original Yankee. 2 seats, low wings, and fixed gear. This plane is equipped with an Lycoming O235 engine that has 108 horsepower. Empty weight, just over 1,000 pounds. Cruise speed, around 120 knots, and a climb rate of 720 feet per minute on a good day. That's decent for a small sport plane, but with 108 horsepower, there ain't a lot to spare. Lose even a little engine power and the climb performance vanishes. The pilot lines up on runway 34, pushing the throttle forward and the Lycoming engine responds. Acceleration actually feels normal. Rotation speed and the AA-1 Bravo is airborne. In a light general aviation aircraft, you're in the takeoff phase until you reach a safe altitude and airspeed, usually around 1,000 feet above ground level. At 500 feet, you're still low, slow, and the margin for error is very small. Just after passing the end of the runway, something feels wrong. The engine is still running, but the rate of climb slows down. First a little, then it's gone. It feels like the plane just hit an invisible web, slowing it to a crawl. In a single engine plane, a total engine failure normally means silence. So a partial engine failure is a lot trickier. You still have thrust, but not enough to maintain climb. It's harder to diagnose and it can eat up altitude very fast. By the way, I tried to break down real-world incidents like this one to figure out what went wrong. So if you want to sharpen your aviation knowledge, or if you just like to hear about aviation incidents, hit subscribe and like this video. And if you ever had something go wrong after takeoff, either flying yourself or as a passenger, let me know in the comments. I read every single one of them. At 500 feet you only got seconds to make a choice, and turning back is almost always a bad idea. Pilots call it the impossible turn. With no or reduced power, a plane can still glide and find a suitable place to make a forced landing. But making a steep turn with no or reduced power will make you lose altitude a lot faster than if you just glide straight ahead. In a steep 45-degree bank, you will lose hundreds of feet just making the turn. By the time you roll out and line up, you will have burned through 800 to 1,000 feet of altitude. So with an engine failure at 500 feet, you would have hit the ground long before you lined up to land. In this case, the pilot chose to make it simple. Nose down, aiming for an airspeed to secure the best possible gliding distance, and picking a landing spot straight ahead, an open grass field just beyond the boundaries of the airport. The touchdown is smooth until the nose gear digs into the ground. Metal snaps, the gear tears off, the airplane dips down, nose forward into the ground, and at some point during the landing, the left wing smashed into something. Maybe the torn off gear or a large rock, but something made a big dent in the wing. Luckily, nobody's hurt, but the aircraft definitely grounded. And now it's the NTSB's turn. Investigators secure the scene, mark debris, photographs everything. They interview pilot and passenger, check fuel samples, document the weather, but find nothing out of the ordinary. Then they begin the mechanical examination. They open the cowling and find something unusual. A compact, rock-hard lump of mud inside the airbox, just between the air filter and the carburetor throat. A mud dauber nest. Mud daubers are solitary wasps. They build nests from mud, often in sheltered cavities. So aircraft intakes are perfect. Dry, protected, narrow. They can build a nest in just a few hours. The Lycoming 0235 engine needs a very specific balance of fuel and air to make full power. Block some of that air and the mixture becomes too rich. Too much fuel, not enough oxygen. When that happens, the engine might still run, but it's like breathing through a straw while running a marathon. You simply can't get the power you need to climb. In this case, the mud dauber nest was sitting in the airbox, between the air filter and the carburetor. That's the main airway the engine breathes through. The mud clogged the passage, forcing the air to squeeze through tiny gaps around the blockage. The result? Every cylinder in the engine starved for oxygen. On the ground during run-up, it might have been just enough to seem fine. But in the climb, when the engine is working the hardest, the restriction became critical. RPM dropped, climb performance vanished, and the plane was stuck with only partial power. Exactly the trap that leads to a forced landing. To make it worse, a partial blockage like this can fool a pilot. The engine doesn't quit outright, so you're left fighting to hold altitude, thinking it's just carburetor icing or a fuel hiccup. And then it's too late. The plane had its annual inspection just 2 weeks before the incident. Brand new air filter fresh from maintenance. And yet, in less than 5 hours of flight time, mud daubers found their way in and built a nest. And here's the thing. Insects love inactive airplanes. If a plane sits outside or in an open hangar, the warm sheltered spaces inside the cowl are perfect for nesting. It doesn't take months or weeks. Some wasps can make a nest in just 1 day. That's why pre-flight inspections is more than just a walk around. You have to check every inlet, every scoop, and every duct. Cowl plugs aren't just to keep debris out. They are the first line of defense against unwelcoming guests moving in. Because if they do, you might not know until you're airborne, and then it's too late. The takeaway? Always cover your inlets when you're not flying the plane. And always check during pre-flight. And the even bigger lesson, partial power loss can actually be more dangerous than a full engine failure. When the engine quits completely, the choice is clear. You make a forced landing. But with partial power, it's easy to think, maybe it will hold, maybe I can make it back. The hesitation can eat up precious altitude and distance until you run out of boat. What's the strangest thing you ever found during a pre-flight? Was it a bird's nest crammed up behind the engine inlet? A snake curled up in the engine well? A forgotten set of sunglasses in the air intake? Or maybe something so weird that you didn't even think it could happen to an airplane? I want to hear your best stories. The ones that made you stop, scratch your head, and think, how in the world did that get there? Drop your story in the comments, cause that would make an excellent subject for a special video about the wildest, funniest, and most unbelievable things found in an airplane. And if you want more real-world aviation breakdown, the kind that mixes incredible stories with lessons you can actually use in the cockpit, make sure to hit the subscribe button. So until next time, stay safe.